How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Falcons Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After Our Soul review video for today. For this new aka After Our Soul review video for today, this is going to be my review on a film that just recently dropped out today for 2022, which this is the most recent release that just came out today around the globe. And I did see this movie today. I just saw this movie just a couple of hours ago, and I'm here to give you guys my personal opinion on what I just recently saw today. So here we go. Today's review is going to be my review on the 2022 Christmas action comedy film, and that movie is Violent Night. This comes to us from the director of Dead Snow, which that movie is a Norwegian horror film, and this film stars David Harbour, which you may know him from Stranger Things, which in this movie he portrays Santa Claus, which he plays the real-life Santa Claus in this movie, which of course his job is to basically deliver presents to the children around the world. And from outside of doing that job, he's kind of having problems with his own. Really, like, he's pretty much like an alcoholic, and he's kind of like a potty mouth Santa, even though he still manages to basically deliver presents to the children around the world. And after we introduced to Santa in this movie, we are introduced to this family where there's this young girl, and her parents are kind of having this a complicated marriage problem and all that, and they travel to basically this big home to basically have a family reunion just during the Christmas holidays to basically celebrate Christmas there. And once they settle into this big home to basically celebrate Christmas, we see Santa comes to their home to basically deliver the presents to them. But what ends up happening later on in the movie, we see these group of mercenaries, which is led by John Leguizamo's character named Mr. Scrooge. He comes to their home to basically steal money that's left in the vault in this big home. And for Santa himself, he has no idea what's going on, and so because pretty much he's not like really a violent Santa, which at first I thought he was, but he's not really like John Wick or anything like that. Because at first he just doesn't even know what's going on until he starts to figure out like what is going on, and it's basically up to himself to basically stop these goons from doing what they're doing in this home, and hopefully he can save the family that's in terrible danger because they are held hostage by these group of mercenaries that's holding them hostage. So that's pretty much the story of Violent Night. Now, when I first saw the posters for this film, at first I thought this was going to be like a horror film where it's basically David Harbour as Santa Claus going on a killing spree, which when I was thinking about that in my head, it immediately threw me back to the Silent Night, Deadly Night films, which, for those films involved a man dressed up as Santa Claus going on a killing spree, which I know they're not the greatest films, but they're kind of fun to watch during the holidays, even though they are extremely cheesy though. And so when I was thinking about that for this movie, I thought this movie was going to be like what Silent Night, Deadly Night did before, but for this film being much better from those films, because like I said, they are kind of like cheesy to watch and all that. But once I saw the trailers for this film, I immediately found out this wasn't really a horror film, because like I said, this is an action comedy film set during Christmas. But once after I saw the trailers for this film, I was actually really looking forward to this, because for David Harbour, who's the main star of the film, he's one of my favorite actors, and he is, and of course, he is in my favorite Netflix series of all time, which is of course Stranger Things, and I absolutely love that show to bits, as well as my friends and family. I was really looking forward to seeing what he was going to do for this film, where basically he just plays Santa Claus kicking some bunch of goons' ass here. And as for the actors in the film, there isn't a whole lot of other actors who I'm familiar with, but you've also got another big name actor in this film, and that is John Leguizamo, who you may know him, of course, as the voice of Sid in the Ice Age series, which in this film he plays the villain. And I was pretty intrigued to see what he was going to do for this movie. And he also made another film that was released this year, which was, of course, The Menu, which that movie came out just a few weeks ago, and I've already just reviewed that. And for this year for him, he's kind of like on a roll here for his movies here. So like I said, I was just really looking forward to seeing what he was going to do for this movie. And as for the director of this movie, like I said, the director of this film is the man who made the Dead Snow films, which I've only seen the first, which I really enjoyed that one. I thought that was a pretty fun Norwegian horror film with zombies in the snow and all that, like Nazi zombies and all that. And I really enjoyed that movie. So I was pretty intrigued to see what he was going to do for this movie. And so, like I said, this recently just dropped by today on the 2nd of December, and I went to see it today. And for my screening, it was nearly fully packed. There was like quite a lot of people in my screening. I guess it was those pretty much who are fans of David Harbour from Stranger Things, though. Anyway, after watching this whole movie, I gotta say, I surprisingly enjoyed this movie a lot more than I expected, because I went in thinking this was just gonna be a good movie, but it kind of made me boosted up my feelings for this movie, because I genuinely had a great time with Violent Night. But obviously, this is not like the next new Christmas classic or anything like that. But there still is quite a few things to really enjoy out of this movie. Like David Harbour as Santa Claus, he is indeed great in this movie as Santa. Like he's just generally a lot of fun to watch for the action scenes, and he's also really funny in the movie too. And as for John Leguizamo, who plays the villain in this movie, Mr. Scrooge, he's really good in this movie, and he's also pretty funny in the movie too. And as for everyone else in the film, like the other family members in the film, they were pretty good, and they were pretty funny for their acting talent in this movie. And I really like the young girl's performance in the film. I thought she was really good in this movie as well. And of course, when it gets to its action moments, it's just immediately what you're going to get out of this movie from if you've seen the trailers already, because the action in this movie is pretty bloody and violent, and also pretty fun and entertaining to watch at the same time. It's mostly due to David Harbour's Santa Claus killing a bunch of goons in pretty brutal ways with each different types of weapons he used in the film, which at first, when I first saw that in the trailers, I thought this was going to be like where it's going to basically have Santa Claus being like John Wick in John Wick form. But he's not like that, because when he soon starts to witness what's going on, he has no idea what's going on until later on in the film he starts to realize what's going on, and then when he does a lot more action, he starts to get a lot more better and better and all that. Which each different types of weapons he uses when it comes to his mind straight away, like say a sledgehammer or anything at all, like say part of an ice and stuff like that. And also, we got to see a bunch of goons do a bit of action in the film, which were pretty fun to watch. Although I did kind of wish there would have been a lot more Santa doing a bit more action in the film. But I totally understand the reason why this film had to play out the way it is supposed to be. Because again, for this Santa, he's not like a badass or anything like that. He's not like John Wick or anything like that. Because he's just a regular Santa who has alcohol problems, and he's kind of like a potty mouth at the same time. And what also really surprised me with the action aspect of the film is that Santa has a bit of a backstory in the film, which I kind of found that oddly surprising. When I first saw it, I kind of had like an odd face when it showed up. But that was not a nitpick for me. And also really surprised me in this movie, outside of the action, when it doesn't really focus on the action, is that it's surprisingly heartfelt, because it's mostly during the scenes when we see Santa interact with this young girl through the walkie-talkie, when she's asking for Santa's help if he can save her through this hostage crisis she's facing with herself and her family and all that, during this whole robbery that's going on and all that. Which, for that aspect of the film, I really liked. I thought that was pretty cute. And when it gets to its comedic roots, it's really funny to watch, mostly due to David Harbour cracking a few jokes once in a while in this film as Santa. Like he jokes on about a bunch of kids who kind of often ask the same thing they always ask for Christmas, which is basically video games, which those moments were really funny. And also it cuts to moments with John Leguizamo's character, Mr. Scrooge, in the film, which he does crack a few jokes in the film, which those moments were pretty funny to watch. And whenever it cuts to a moment with John Leguizamo, I always tend to enjoy it, because, John Leguizamo, he is really funny in real life, and he's also pretty funny in movies. And speaking of the young girl in the film, there was one aspect of its storyline in the film which I kind of found the weakest aspect of the film, which that one aspect in the film is that for her parents, they're kind of like a complicated marriage problem, and for this young girl, she basically is making a wish where her family can get back together and all that. Which, for that aspect of the film, I kind of found it really cliched and not really that interesting, because it's not really what you came to see here. Because for what you come to see in this film is just basically David Harbour as Santa Claus killing off a bunch of goons in pretty brutal ways with each different types of weapons he uses. Even though for that family, I did kind of want them to be saved during this whole crisis they're facing in the film. And also another weak aspect I did have with the film is that there are some scenes that do tend to drag on, even though it's not a very long film, and this movie's only an hour and 52 minutes. It's just there's a few scenes that do tend to drag on and all that, mostly due to the one aspect of the film that didn't really interest me at all that much. And as for the concept for the film, I did find it pretty creative and all that, because it took a few essence out of a few Christmas movies. Like, it took a few of them out and just completely mixed together and just made its own thing here. Like, it took a few essence out of Die Hard, which, for that film, it's a violent action Christmas movie and all that. It also took some essence out of Home Alone, which, for that film, it's known for having booby traps here. And for this movie, it does tend to have a few violent traps here and there. And it has a little bit of sprinkling to Silent Night, Deadly Night, which, for that film, it's about an evil Santa killing people and all that. Even though for this film, it doesn't have an evil Santa and all that, because this one has a good Santa who, is trying to save a family who are in danger from a bunch of goons who are trying to do a robbery and all that. It's basically up to him to save them while he has to kill a bunch of goons in each different types of ways that are pretty brutal. And overall, in the end, guys, Violent Night, I surprisingly had a great time with this one, because I went in thinking this was just going to be a good watch, but from my experience with this film, after watching this whole thing, my experience with this movie definitely boosted up to a whole new different level, because like I said, I had a great time with this one. Like I said, it has pretty fun bloody action. It has fun performances. It has some really funny moments, and it has a pretty creative concept and all that. Despite having one weak aspect with the film with its story, and there are some scenes that do tend to drag on a little bit though. But it's not, even though it still is a fun Christmas action film, and I can definitely say it's definitely another good one. But it's obviously like I said, it's definitely not like the next new Die Hard or anything like that. And I don't see this film being like the next new Christmas classic over the next few years. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Violent Night. I'm gonna give Violent Night 4 out of 5. Yep, surprisingly deserves this rating because, again, I went in thinking this was just going to be a good watch, but after watching this whole movie, my experience with this movie definitely boosted up on a whole new different level because, like I said, I had a great time with this one. And this is definitely one I can recommend for yourself to see this in the cinemas with your best friends during the holidays. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for my AK After Hours Saw review on Violent Night. And let me know what you think of this brand new release if you just recently checked out this movie. Did you have a great time with this or were you very disappointed with this? As always, thank you guys so much for watching. And this has been Focus Media Corner signing off. Happy holidays, everyone.